Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this important and timely webinar on how employers can ethically deal with politics in the workplace. My name is Jason, and I'll be guiding you through today's discussion. With the current political climate, it's increasingly common for political issues to seep into everyday workplace interactions. But how do we as employers ensure that we're managing this in a way that's fair, ethical, and legal? Let's dive in by looking at the key areas we'll be covering today. Today's discussion will be broken up into 5 parts. The first part will be understanding legal protections and limitations on political speech. Then we'll go over creating a respectful and inclusive workplace. Then we'll transition into how to manage political activism in the workplace, the differences between encouragement versus endorsement. Next, we'll go over how you can balance free speech and maintaining workplace productivity. And finally, we'll wrap up with some best practices for addressing political conflicts. So let's go ahead and dive right into topic number 1, which is understanding legal protections and limitations on political speech. Let's start with what employers legally can and cannot do when it comes to politics in the workplace. First, federal and state laws on political speech. Let's address a common misconception. The First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech, generally does not apply in private workplaces. Employers can, under certain conditions, limit political expression. However, some states, such as California, Colorado, and New York, have laws that provide protection for political activities or affiliations. Make sure that you understand the specific laws in your state. If you have questions about your specific state, please reach out to us with the contact information found at the bottom of the slides. The National Labor Relations Act, more commonly known as the NLRA. Under the NLRA, employees have the right to engage in protected concerted activity to discuss working conditions, which can sometimes intersect with more general political discussions. For example, conversations about minimum wage, healthcare, or labor rights could be protected under the NLRA. Discrimination concerns. You have to be cautious about political discussions that could cross over into harassment or discrimination. For example, if political discussions veer into topics related to race, religion, or gender, you may be dealing with a violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Finally, let's talk about what are your rights as an employer to limit political expression. While employees have some protections in the workplace, employers do have the right to ensure the workplace remains productive and free from hostility. If political discussions are causing disruptions, lowering morale, or leading to conflicts, you are within your rights to intervene. Just ensure you're doing so consistently. As employers, it's important to recognize that while we respect our employees' right to free expression, we also have a responsibility to ensure a focused, harmonious work environment. This means that there are certain circumstances where it's appropriate and legally permissible to limit political expression at work, particularly when it disrupts productivity or creates tension among team members. Federal law generally allows private employers to set boundaries on political speech in the workplace, as long as those limitations are applied consistently and do not infringe on otherwise protected labor rights, such as discussions around working conditions. For example, while employees can discuss work-related issues like pay or safety, employers may limit conversations that stray into divisive political topics unrelated to work or their work conditions if they start to impact morale or efficiency. Establishing a clear, consistent policy helps define what types of expression are appropriate within the workplace. Make sure that employees understand the purpose is not to stifle opinions, but to maintain a respectful and productive space where everyone can focus on their roles without distraction. These policies should apply equally to all viewpoints to ensure fairness, reinforcing that the workplace is a space for collaboration, not for confrontation. Now that we've established a legal framework, Let's talk a little bit about how to ethically manage political speech and activity in your workplace. It's important to foster an environment of respect and inclusion regardless of individual political beliefs. First off, set clear expectations for civility. Establish clear workplace policies on respect and civility. While you don't need to ban political discussions altogether, ensure employees know that offensive language or personal attacks won't be tolerated. Setting clear expectations for civility is foundational in creating a respectful and productive work environment, especially when navigating sensitive topics like politics. Civility isn't about restricting opinions, it's about ensuring conversations remain respectful, considerate, and constructive. To establish this, start by communicating what respectful dialogue looks like. This could include guidelines around listening actively, avoiding inflammatory language, and respecting others' rights to different views. By defining these expectations up front, we set the tone that while diversity of thought is welcome, personal attacks or disruptive language are not. Encourage employees to approach sensitive topics with empathy and patience, focusing on understanding rather than convincing. Clear guidelines will help everyone feel comfortable participating in conversations, knowing that there is a mutual commitment to respect. It's a proactive way to prevent conflict and create a culture where diverse perspectives can coexist harmoniously, allowing us to focus on shared goals and collaborative success. Next, encourage open dialogue with boundaries. Creating a space for open dialogue is important, but it must be balanced with the need to maintain a productive work environment. Encourage employees to be mindful of how their words might affect others. Finally, there's always room for training and awareness. Consider implementing diversity and inclusion training that includes guidance on how to handle political discussions and conversations in a respectful manner. By providing tools for navigating sensitive discussions, you're helping to create a more harmonious and productive workplace. We can help with this. Feel free to reach out if you need any sort of guidance on this kind of training or awareness. Another challenge for employers is navigating the line between encouraging employees to be civically engaged and appearing to endorse specific political movements or candidates. Encourage civic participation. It's absolutely fine and even beneficial for employers to encourage employees to be civically engaged, such as providing time off to vote or promoting volunteerism for nonpartisan causes. You may even be required by your state or locality to provide time off for voting. If you're not sure, we can help with that. Avoid the appearance of endorsement. Be careful when you are supporting causes or political movements as a company. If you choose to publicly endorse a political candidate or cause, it could alienate employees who don't share the same views. Encourage activism in general, but avoid signaling out specific political ideologies in a way that could appear to be linked to your position of authority as management. Finally, let's talk about when political activism becomes disruptive. If an employee's activism begins to interfere with their job performance or the work environment, you can step in. Again, this should be done consistently, regardless of the employee's political leanings. When addressing political activism in the workplace, it's important to recognize when enthusiasm crosses into disruption. Encouraging employees to engage civically is valuable, but we must also uphold a productive, inclusive environment. If activism efforts, whether organizing meetings, distributing materials, or discussing polarizing issues, start impacting other employees' work or comfort levels, this is where we step in. As leaders, we can help employees channel their passion constructively. For instance, encourage activism efforts during non-working hours or off premises. Remind employees that while everyone has the right to express themselves, it's essential to respect others' right to work in a distraction-free environment. In managing these situations, remain fair and consistent. If activism, whether on social, political, or other grounds, becomes disruptive, apply the same policies to all employees regardless of their stance. This will ensure that every team member feels valued and respected. Political discussions can be disruptive if not properly managed. So how do you strike the right balance between allowing free expression and maintaining productivity? Start by limiting disruptive conversations. You can set rules around when and where political discussions are appropriate. For example, casual political conversations during breaks might be acceptable, but they shouldn't occur in formal meetings or in team collaborations. When it comes to limiting disruptive conversations, it's not about silencing opinions. It's about setting boundaries that help everyone work effectively. Political discussions can be engaging and even energizing, but they can also quickly escalate or create discomfort for others. Our goal is to foster an environment where employees feel comfortable expressing themselves without letting any single conversation interfere with work or harmony. One way to address this is by setting clear company-wide guidelines. Encourage employees to have these discussions during breaks or in designated areas. Remind them to be mindful of tone and timing. Choosing to discuss sensitive topics at appropriate moments can go a long way in keeping everyone comfortable and focused. And remember, I know I sound like a broken record now. It is crucial that we apply these guidelines consistently, no matter the views being expressed. This approach helps us uphold a culture of fairness where everyone feels respected and productive. Next, let's talk about how you define disruption. Make sure employees understand what qualifies as disruption in the workplace. Are political debates leading to distractions, lowered productivity, or tensions? If so, you can intervene without infringing on anyone's rights to free speech outside of work. Defining what qualifies as disruption is essential to setting clear expectations around behavior in the workplace. A well-defined standard helps employees understand boundaries and allows leaders to address issues fairly and consistently. Disruption goes beyond simple disagreement. It's behavior that actively impedes others from working effectively or creates a tense, uncomfortable environment. This could include conversations that become loud, heated, or persistent enough to distract others or create conflict. For instance, repeated discussions about controversial topics in open, shared spaces may cross that line from personal expression into disruption, especially if colleagues feel pressured to participate or are uncomfortable sharing their own views. When setting policies, it's helpful to offer examples of disruptive behaviors and explain why they're counterproductive to our shared goals. This way, employees can see that our focus is on maintaining a workspace where everyone feels comfortable and can focus on their tasks without distraction or discomfort. Clear guidelines empower the team to engage in productive, respectful interactions while knowing when to step back for the sake of workplace harmony. Finally, let's bring it back to consistency. Consistency is key. The most important aspect of addressing political speech in the workplace is to apply any rules consistently. You don't want to be seen as playing favorites or stifling only one side of the political spectrum. Consistency is essential when setting boundaries on political speech and activism in the workplace. Without consistent application, even well-intentioned policies can be perceived as biased, which can erode trust and morale. For instance, if we ask employees to refrain from discussing certain topics or using company resources for personal views, these guidelines need to apply across the board, regardless of which views are being expressed. Consistency helps ensure that everyone understands the expectations and that policies are applied fairly. This approach reassures employees that we're not playing favorites or singling out specific viewpoints, but rather fostering an environment of mutual respect and professionalism. When employees see consistent reinforcement, they're more likely to trust in the fairness of our approach, which ultimately leads to a more cohesive, productive team. So remember, consistency isn't just a rule for dealing with political discussion in the workplace. It is a foundation for respect, trust, and unity in any diverse workplace. Lastly, let's talk about what you should do when there are political disagreements in the workplace. Conflict is inevitable in any politically charged environment, but it's how we manage that conflict that matters. First thing, address issues early. If you see tension starting to rise between employees over political differences, step in early. Hold private conversations with the individuals involved and remind them of the company's policies on respectful communication. Mediation and conflict resolution. Consider offering mediation services or conflict resolution workshops. These can provide employees with strategies to handle disagreements constructively. Promote unity around shared values. As an employer, you foster unity by focusing on shared workplace values, teamwork, professionalism, and respect, rather than letting divisive political issues take center stage. Finally, stay neutral as a leader. As a leader, be mindful of your own behavior. While you may have strong personal political beliefs, it's important to remain neutral and not allow those beliefs to influence how you manage your team. As leaders, staying neutral in the face of political discussions can sometimes be challenging, especially if we feel strongly about a topic. However, neutrality is crucial in maintaining trust and showing that we prioritize a respectful, inclusive environment over personal viewpoints. Our team looks to us to set the tone. If we model neutrality, it helps prevent the impression that any particular belief is more valued than another. When political issues arise, aim to listen actively and acknowledge different perspectives without endorsing or dismissing any specific stance. Encourage your team to focus on shared goals and values rather than personal beliefs. Remember, it's okay to express support for civic engagement in general, but always avoid aligning with particular positions. Staying neutral doesn't mean ignoring issues. It means fostering a respectful space where everyone feels safe to express themselves professionally. By leading with neutrality, we create a workplace where every employee feels valued for their contributions, not judged for their views. This approach goes a long way in building a resilient, unified team where respect is mutual and focus can remain on our shared mission. In conclusion, managing politics in the workplace requires a thoughtful balance of respect, consistency, and legal awareness. We hope this webinar has given you some useful strategies to navigate these challenges and create a more inclusive, respectful workplace environment. Remember, you're not alone in this process. At PeopleWorks, we're here to support you. Whether you're facing specific challenges or want to learn more about implementing best practices, our team is just a message away. We're always ready to help answer questions, provide resources, or work through unique scenarios with you. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We'd love to partner with you to ensure your workplace remains a place where every employee feels respected, safe, and valued. Thank you again for joining us today.